Thanks to those who joined in live, and welcome to anyone watching the recording. What's on my mind and heart today is there's so many different spiritual teachings out there, so many different ideas. How to know which ones are true? But maybe even before that, is it important to find out which ones are true? I've come to the conclusion that yes, it's very important. For many years of my spiritual journey, I just was like, oh, it's all true, and it doesn't really matter what you believe, and and boy, was I wrong. And not everything is true, and it really matters. Why does it matter? Well, Bruno Gröning pointed out that the thought moves us to deed. Depending on what I believe, motivates my actions day by day. And even deeper than that, according to Bruno, and I find it to be very true, my will determines what kind of thoughts I have, and then my thoughts determine my actions. So having a correct intention, and the only way I know to have a correct intention is to really understand what life is about. And Bruno just made it so clear that life is a school. And so my intention is to then learn and grow. And in Bruno's words, to become an instrument of God. I've been really exploring Buddhism lately, and in the Buddhist understanding, the meaning of life is to become a Buddha, an awakened being, a liberated, awakened being who helps save others from this cycle of birth, death, rebirth, which Bruno Gröning spoke of in his own way. I called it let me see if I can remember the heavy rhythm of birth and death. So having that, it's like, what's your deepest purpose? And then from there, that'll determine what kind of thoughts you have. And then that'll, according to Bruno, find out if it's true. And that'll determine your actions. So setting that primary motivation. And then from there, something I've been really taking to heart lately is that every thought and every action is a seed. As Bruno said, he was just paraphrasing what it's written that Christ said, you reap what you sow, that our thoughts have impact, not just our deeds, but actually our thoughts have impact. And we may not experience them right here, right now, but Bruno pointed out that he said, let me think if I can. Now I'll have to just paraphrase that we, all the misfortune we have experienced, we've brought it on ourselves. How? Through past misthoughts and misdeeds. And that's why at the end of the day, Bruno encouraged people to review their day and to strongly regret negative actions, and to determine to do better. So that every day can become a learning, like, oops. Because I've noticed that a lot of the negative things I do, it's just a habit. I do it over and over. And so you become aware of it and then break that habit, which Bruno called the force of habit. It truly is a whole force. Habit is a force. That's my experience. Is it's some habits are easy to break, but some are really not, especially habits of thinking, especially habits of negative thinking, some of which maybe we've been doing our whole lifetime, much less other lifetimes. So I invite people to really reflect on, what's the purpose of life? Why am I here? And to really reflect on, is Bruno right? Is Jesus right? And of course, this is a mainstay idea in Hinduism and Buddhism, that every action is planting a seed. that is going to bear fruit. The question is what kind of fruit, and that depends on if it's a helpful or harmful action. But the idea that it will bear fruit, it's a life-changing idea, because as I look at my life in the past, I wasn't really reflecting on the consequences of my actions. And there's this idea that we can sort of get away with things. And in the short term, oftentimes we can get away with things. But if these sages are right, and I'm convinced they are, sooner or later, the seed is going to bear fruit. And if it's a negative action, it's going to bear negative fruit. Now, wrapped all around this is Bruno's teachings on grace, that there is grace available. When I read some of Hinduism and Buddhism, it can be very heavy. This idea of like, oh my gosh, every negative thing I did, every negative thought, I'm going to have to. And there is a way to, according to Bruno, there is a way to experience grace. Bruno once said, when man regrets, God forgives. And that's one of them, to truly regret, to have remorse. In some sense, to suffer over to consciously suffer over like a past misdeed. Like, that didn't feel good. To genuinely regret it. And Bruno spoke of putting into practice the teachings of Christ that help what he called the discharge of guilt, which to me just sounds like a Western way of saying the discharge of negative karma, but that's just my view. But he said the discharge of guilt goes much, much more quickly when the teachings of Christ are put into practice, when spiritual love, when forgiving and forgetting, when taking on the attitude of nonviolence. And nonviolence isn't just refraining from hitting people. It's Gandhi defined it as the absence of ill will towards anyone. So there is grace available, yet right now, lately, I'm really reflecting on the power of my thoughts and actions, that they are seeds that will bear fruit. That's not to guilt myself. That's not to freak out about it, but to become mindful and to start consciously planting some better seeds. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I wish you a beautiful day of planting seeds and a beautiful day of really reflecting on finding your compass. I shared what mine is, of becoming an instrument of God, to become a Buddha. There's different ways of saying it. But I wish people a day of really reflecting on, like, what's my fundamental life purpose? And that one's mine, and it really orients me properly. Thank you. Take care. Much love.